Okay, I've finished my planning for my daring plan of attack for the invasion of Norway. I thought I'd just speak about it a bit because it looks quite exciting. Um, Essentially because of the possibilities that we have. So this is a sheet that I needed. So in the first wave, I can have 15 battalions. Essentially, they can go anywhere, and they cost double to go north unless I break down. What I chose to do is normally a battalion costs double transport capability to go up north, unless you take these mountain divisions, so you cancel these ones, they never come into play. You take these, they're stripped down in equipment, so they can go up with light warships taken all the way up. So and they get half a move after landing. You can only land in ports. Whether opposed or not. Then the follow-up wave, so that's the assault wave. The follow-up wave has 14 more battalions, and I'm going to put them all at Oslo because at that point I start having to roll on here. So any further than Oslo, there's a big chance that they won't make it. And then I have 7 battalions to stage. I also had to think about possible air landings. So aircraft can attempt to land on enemy bases, such as say this one, or enemy airfields. Essentially, these really sort of daring lands. Just land on the base, guys will sort of jump out and take over. It's a 50%. What you do is you can sort of each base can hold up to 6 air units. So you could have say 6 squadrons waiting. You can only send in one for that attempt. 50% chance it makes it. If it does, the others can land. If it doesn't, that one's eliminated and the others have to go back to base. That is if they've got enough movement capability to go back to base. I also had to consider my 3 paratroop units, and then also any air units which I might stage. Now that's over and above the staging of ground units. So this is what I decided in the assault wave. I'm having 6 of those reduced mountain battalion divisions. 3 of them are going to Narvik and 3 are going to Trondheim. So that's 3 kind of like halfway up at Trondheim. So they will land at the port there. And then there's 3 that will land unopposed at the port of Narvik there. Now, I had to think about supply because on the first turn they're all in supply, but after that they won't be. Now you get 1 supply on the second turn in Sweden. So essentially you're really going to, as the Norwegians, you're going to use it somewhere up here. And I'm going to say it's going to go there. So that will hopefully, they will get an unopposed landing. There's 3 units. On a 6 they won't make it. So 2 at least that I should hope make it. And then they can have a half move. They can move there to Elversgard, and hopefully that retreats before combat. Possibly even 1, 2. They won't quite make it over the river into the airfield there. But so hopefully they can take those 2 ports on the first turn and then be supplied in the second turn. Then down here, 3 of them, they will have an opposed landing, but again, these units, which is, that's the 5th, so that's just, you can't see it there, that's that one there, sorry about the darkness, 2, 3, 4. So hopefully again that will retreat before combat, which is a special first turn rule, which will then leave this ammunition dump, which will be converted to a supply unit for the Germans, and these trucks behind which cannot move out. So they're hoping to take that and be supplied in that way, and then they'll have to deal with those that retreated out in those later on. So there's an airfield there. No, sorry, the airfield is there. I'm leaving that empty at the moment. Then again, I have 6 2-4 infantry battalions from each of these, so 2 from each of these divisions. Now 2 will go in Fredrikstad, that's here, 2 in Horten, that's here, and 2 in Kristiansand, that's here. So that will be opposed, but again, hopefully they will retreat before combat. If not, there's 2. Hopefully both of them will get in. So it's dicey. We'll see what happens there. So the ones in Horton should be able to move in the first turn, take that ammunition dump, so they will get some supply. And hopefully at least one of those from Friedrichstadt will have enough movement to get that supply as well, capture those dumps. Now I considered going into Oslo, but there's the one Guards division there which they do not retreat before combat unless they wish to. So that would have been very risky to sort of, and it's a strong, at least especially in defence, I said Guards division, but it's just a battalion equivalent. And then I will send in 3 supply in that wave. I said into Oslo. What does that mean? Yeah, so that's going to have to go around here wherever these guys are. So they 1 supply each. Hopefully they will get it. Then I have 3 transport planes plus 2 with 1 each with a supply and 1 artillery, the 3rd mountain at the Trondheim field. So yes, that's right. So these transports, 3 of these ones, they're going to double their flying and hope to land at Trondheim airfield. If they don't make it, they will all crash and be lost. So that's a 50% chance of happening. Oh my god, am I crazy with that? I don't know. I might have to rethink that. Then 3 paras with in their Junkers 52s with 3 Messerschmitt escorts, and the paras are going to be dropped there, and then the Messerschmitts and the escorts and the Junkers will attempt also air landing in that field too. Then for the air staging, air staging, air landing. So essentially I'm going to get there's 18 Junkers 52 because some of them are carrying, because they're going double distance, so they're coming all the way from here and they will be landing here. If they will attempt a landing, so these have to be doubled because they'll be, because they're going to save enough. They'll be having long distance fuel. They'll have enough distance. If the air landing doesn't happen there, they will have enough to come back, and they will be staging in the 2 Denmark fields there. So they will be all right. If they don't get there, they won't crash. If they do, there'll be 3 battalions. So 3 battalions and 3 artillery battalions of that division, and the same as the 69th Division there. Then the follow-up, so that is the attack wave. So essentially I've got water transit landings there, which should be okay. There should be okay. I've got 3 landing that suppose that we might end up with a scrap. And then a scattering here, which should get these 2 dumps. Paratroopers will land there fine. We might get troops and air landings there. If not, they will have to land here. And then I've got that very risky one there, which could, I think I might have to that out, because I think actually counting it, I don't have enough transports for that. And then the follow-up wave, essentially I'm bringing in supply and brigade units around here and here. All around here, and some here, which could be a bit risky. The ones there, and then it's just the supply I'm bringing in there, and then I will stage. So they will go into the staging box to be available to be, water transit. And next turn, 6 of the headquarters, because I'm employing all of the initial order of battle divisions. So all their headquarters and one anti-aircraft battalion will be staged ready to be brought in by boat at the beginning of next turn. So that's the daring plan. Because units can move, if they retreat before combat, units can move half their movement after in that first initial first wave landing. So if they retreat before combat, I can move units into there, and that clears that for the landing of transports in the air phase. But if they don't do that, those transports they will just abort. They don't have to attempt a risky air landing. But I do have to check. I've only got 18 junkers and I actually counted for them elsewhere. Those ones will be doing the paratroops, so I'll have to use these, which are Kriegsmarine boats. And in fact, they, I believe, can't land at airfield because they have float planes. Let me check. Okay, I figured it out. So I'm going to use float plane transports because they don't. So float plane transports, because they don't land at air bases, they land at ports. So we're counting that Trondheim will be taken and they can land there. They have distance of 40, so yeah, they could definitely reach there. And this airbase should be taken, so 6 can land there definitely, and 12 more will be doubled, bringing in more battalions, which will rebase back to here. So that's the plan, looking good, I hope. I'll just take a moment to record these initial rolls of the assault wave landing. Tense moment. So we got 3 battalions of the 3rd Mountain Division, 138th Brigade, coming in to Narvik on a 6. A roll for each, they don't make it. 2, 6, and 2. Okay, so the middle one didn't make it. That's immediately 1, 2, 3, 4 victory points because it's a mountain battalion to the Norwegian player. Now the next one is down here at Trondheim, so this will be an opposed landing as well. But first, do they make it? 3, 3, and 5. Yes, so all 3 make it in. Now let's see. This headquarters has just got 1 unit with it, an infantry brigade. In fact, a mountain infantry brigade. On a 3 to 6, it retreats. Yes, okay. So they will move to the airfield naturally to cover that, and these units get in here, which means they've captured the trucks and the ammunition dump, which the ammunition dump is immediately removed and converted into that personnel unit there. So they also will move that direction, and then I'll have to turn the camera around for these. I've got 2 stronger battalions there, but not a mountain, coming in at Kristiansand. 6, 1 has been sunk, and a 5, so 1 made it. Is it opposed? Yes, so that one stays there, so there's going to be a battle in the combat section, which is going to happen after the air phase. Interesting. So that one was destroyed. That's another 2 victory points, the Norwegian player. And then down here we have 4 more units, 2 moving into Horton there. I rolled a 6, and you've got to be careful because I haven't got this map under Plexi. So 2 more victory points. So the other one made it into Horton, and I believe in the exploitation phase he can move on. And then these 2 here, I rolled a 1 and a 5, so they both made it into there for you, we. Okay, so we have a combat. Oh no, so I must do the air phase first, then we'll have a combat phase here. Essentially, that will be a 50-50. Now let me see, it would be 1 against 1. Yeah. No, yeah, sort of 50-50. It's not, and that's not going to be a good result for the attacker. And then over there in Trondheim, because they retreated before combat, they will actually be able to move 1 hex in the exploitation phase and could enter a combat hex. So the next will be the airdrops and air landing and so forth. So of 12 units attempting landing transit, we lost 3. So that's slightly over the odds, but not completely unlucky. But we were doubly unlucky here in that this Norwegian unit did not retreat before combat, and there's only one of those, the 2 that I was hoped to have landed there did land, which basically means I think this unit's probably going to be lost. There's a third chance that it won't be lost, because we've got some. We hope to have had taken that air base. So there's air units going to come into there, which we'll have to attempt an air landing now, which I was hoping we wouldn't have to do, and they might not make it. Some of them will crash if they don't. I wonder if I can abort them. I suppose I can at this point just decide not to send them in. Well, I'll have to calculate that. But anyway, that's messed up our intention there, which was unfortunate. It means that we'll have this air base, but that's the only one. That parachute landing should go fine, then the Norwegians may attack us in their half of the turn. So I was hoping to have that airbase and that airbase in Norway at the end of the first turn, as well as these 2 in Denmark. But we may just end up with those 2 in Denmark. Yeah. And I thought we would have that. I think I made a miscalculation there as well. We'll have to see how it turns out. The situation may not be too bad because they retreated before combat. So in my exploitation phase, I can move units into there. And then in there, they either have to move out, or if they remain there in their turn, they will have to fight me. And that will be at 1-to-1 odds, which is bad for them. So I think at the end of the turn we will have that airfield, but not at this point. Whereas I'm hoping to land. Oh no, that's right. Yeah, I'm landing float planes at the port there, so that's fine. We're doing fine up there. So it's gone good. We got Narvik and Trondheim, which is fantastic, and we got fairly strong units there. We do though need some air base down here so that we can reinforce them with troops in the next turn. Having just completed turn 2 of Narvik, I just wanted to go over what had been happening. We're looking from the east here, so the north is this way. Here is the bottom of Denmark, of Norway, and the top of Denmark here, which is under German control, and this swathe around here is all Sweden. There's the boundary of Norway, that black line. Essentially, these green cubes indicate all important airfields. There's one here, it's blue, in the control of Germany. Then there's two on either side of Oslo. There's one here, there's one here, there's one here, there's another one here at Trondheim, and then there's one more up the top here. This is Narvik, and there's an airfield here in the vicinity of Narvik as being the topmost point of Norway. So essentially what happened on turn 1 was that 6 mountain battalions were sent in by sea and 6 infantry battalions and then 1 mountain brigade. The 6 infantry battalions landed here, here and here. There was an opposed landing here, and there was a loss of a unit in I think the ensuing fight. Then 3 mountain battalions were sent in to Trondheim here. The enemy retreated before combat. There's a first turn rule which says that most 2/3 of the time the Norwegians must retreat before combat. Normally you roll the die, it's on a 1 or a 2. They have the option to do so. And we lost one of the units in transit there to Allied shipping and air cover. And then 3 mountain battalions and 1 mountain brigade were sent in there. We lost one of those mountain battalions in transit. The brigade was a very risky proposition because you roll for each unit. If you've broken a brigade down into 3 battalions, obviously you've got a good chance of getting at least 2, maybe all of them on. But on a 6, you would lose the whole brigade. Fortunately, that one survived. And in the second turn, let me zoom in so you get a better look at what's going on. I'll get a little bit closer. Okay, so now in their turn, the Allies interdicted Narvik, so no more units could be brought in, and they also provided anti-aircraft cover from Navy units for the neighbouring Elvesgard Summer town. The Germans in fact moved up here into the mountains, and on the second turn they've moved around here to place themselves next to the airport because they desperately need an airfield. The airfield's in that hex. This is just marks the vicinity of it. In the first turn we got some newly mobilised Norwegian troops. In the second turn they moved forwards. Second turns they've moved forwards to help defend here. The Norwegians are slightly hampered in that their headquarters do not reduce stacking so much as the Germans are. That obviously the Germans have a more, I guess they're modelled as having a more efficient organisation, but there's no headquarters there at the moment for the 3rd Mountain Division units there, so they're having to. There's a maximum of 2 per hex, and until they get that airfield, it's very, very doubtful if they're going to get any reinforcements. They have a supply, which is 1 supply unit here in Sweden, which started out there, and then it's moved around here to accompany these. So you spend that supply if you perform combat. Otherwise, you can just stay in supply without combat. So they need an extra supply, which can be dropped by air. But again, that's a long way up. So the next important point is here in Trondheim. This was a bit of a success. Although they lost 1 brigade coming in, they managed to capture an ammunition dump and also a truck unit. Oh no, they didn't lose a brigade. No, that's right. Yeah, they didn't lose a brigade. So all 3 of their brigades came in, they took possession of Trondheim quite handily with two supplies. They used one of those supplies on the second term to fight a Norwegian unit there. Unfortunately, were unsuccessful, and they've retreated into the mountains there. Because mountain units get bonuses in the mountains, there's only one Norwegian mountain unit against two that are left there. So they're kind of sitting pretty, but again, they need the airfield, which is in this hex, to bring in more reinforcements, because supply by sea there is way too risky. They did use their captured trucks to move one of their units down here to try and help clear this road here, because the other major effort was here down in the southwest. So on the first turn we had those 6 units move in. They were quite successful. They managed to capture 2 supply dumps, and there's another truck unit still held there by the Norwegians. But they took out one of the air units, and then these are 2 battalions formed from the remnants of the dumped artillery. If they had been saved, these would be artillery units, but the Germans got the supplies, the personnel saved themselves. They were swiftly ordered to guard the airfields, one here and one here, because on the first turn, the Germans attempted a paratroop landing in this airfield to take it. It was turned back by the weather. Until you get an airfield in Norway, the weather, I guess that's the sea crossing, will turn back any attempted paratroop landing 2/3 of the time. So anyway, they've taken the airfields to try and prevent that second and third turn. Well, in fact, they moved in the second turn, so from the third turn. And the Norwegians, just in their second wave, they brought in all their... how many did they bring in there? They brought in 3 supply and 3 whole brigades, plus 2 armour companies around here in the second wave. And then they staged 6 headquarters unit and 1 AA unit to be brought in the second turn. So they came on in the second turn. In fact, I switched out, I made an adjustment, switched out the AA unit. I think I brought in some more artillery. So they have consolidated and moved out, but there's a fairly strong Norwegian, it's like the Royal Guard under that, with that headquarters. And the armour units, 2 armour units, managed to whiz around here again to come out and try and claim a connection up to Trondheim. So armour units they can move in the exploitation phase, same as the trucks, so they can cover a lot of ground which the other units can't. However, the Norwegians do have these units here in trucked, and these ones here. Then the last thing to mention is what happened over here at Kristiansand is we lost 1 unit. I believe we lost one. We lost 1 unit coming in, and we're not able to take the airfield here, and so a unit has gone up into the mountains there. They're not actually mountain units, but at least they'd have some protection. But the bulk of their division is coming in now and next turn, so that will bring a strong force. We will have an airfield soon, but really we need them now as soon as possible, because in the first turn the Allies, apart from bringing in interdiction and anti-aircraft cover, they also brought in here a stack of about 5 or 6 units, some night bombers, night fighter bombers, and a fighter unit. Not hugely powerful, but they can start creating some hassle for the German air cover. Germans staged a lot of their junkers up here, and you can see they've got units waiting to be ferried over from the airfields in Denmark. And here's the float planes that they sent in supply to they can land in ports rather than airfields. So they supplied Trondheim originally in the first turn. So things went quite well, but in the second turn, the let me see if I can get a bit closer. So the Norwegians on the first turn just lost their single present air unit. In the second wave, we lost 2 artillery battalions coming in, and there's like a Junkers unit which attempted. Oh yes, that was right. We attempted a daring air landing down on Kristiansand here, which that never made it. So that was aborted, and that Junkers unit was destroyed. But the worst disaster was a bit foolish of me. I should have sent this in by air units, and that's what we need the airfield for, because even though it just ferried across from Denmark to one of these ports, this whole artillery battalion of the 214th Division is lost. So the 214th Division, which this belongs to and is reinforcing up here, now has no artillery. I say that, yeah, so it's got no artillery at all. I forgot to remove that one. So that's a bit of a disaster. But c'est la vie, that's how it goes. And so, I've knocked my victory point. I have to recount them, but anyway, it's something like 26 victory points so far because of the losses and some interdiction by the Allies in those first 2 turns. Okay, I just found a rule which I hadn't noticed before, which is that any Allied air unit that is destroyed is automatically replaced the next turn back at Bomber Command. Okay, so not at Hatton Field, but at Bomber Command. So they're further away, but they do automatically come back. And I also realised I hadn't actually played. I played the second turn German part, but not the Norwegian part. So I have that to do now. So we'll be essentially what that means is that all the Allied air units can be kind of wasted, used riskily. They will come back a bit delayed. Well, I'll have to see how that goes, but it means I don't have to be as conservative with them as I thought I had to be, because they are weaker in factors, combat factors, bombing factors, so forth, than the German ones. But they are quite expendable. Correction, it's the Allied Bomber Command units, Bomber Command, so there's only 4 which can always be replaced. They're further down here in the sort of southeast of England. The other units are stationed here at Halston Field. Some have staged here. So those are coming in this turn, as well as some swords and Blenheims, and actually some British combat infantry troops. When we look at these Bomber Command units, it's 18 hexes to there, and then all the way to Oslo Northfield there, it's 48. So they could land there by doubling their factor, so they don't have to return home. So only 2 of them will be able to do that. These 2 won't be able to get that far. They can just about get to Kristiansand airfield here. So if that airfield's not held, these units will not be able to stage into Norway. They'd only be able to intercept any German air units around here, perhaps attacking aircraft carriers. So they could be used for cap. In fact, yes, I'd forgotten, I do get an aircraft carrier, the Furious, this turn, so I'll have to see how that works out. So the end result of turn 2 is we got the Furious coming in here with 3 Swordfish squadrons disrupting this heavy mountain regiment. I've been calling them brigades, but they're regiments. These are actually German troops which came in the destroyers. I forgot to add them in. The there's an Allied division, or at least the headquarters and the 2 or 3 units of its division have landed there. Similar, they've landed an anti-aircraft unit there. And these units managed to... Did they cause a disruption? Yes, they caused a disruption, and then in the combat there's this a truck and a mountain unit were destroyed, but it was an exchange, so the Norwegians lost some as well. And the British have brought in some units down here in Kristiansand. So they brought in a small unit there. So having reinforcements here and here and here, combat going on here. This one's looking well because the Norwegians have sort of got the control of those passes there. But these are still surrounded. Now, I hadn't put these marks on before, but these go on the mobilisation centres. So by a bit of randomisation, you can you can see the chances of it. There's 16 mobilisation centres and there's 16 Norwegian divisions, and between 1 and 7, 2 and 7 of them will mobilise in any one turn, and there's a bit of a randomisation depending on the turn. But if those places are controlled by the Germans capture those units, they're counted as destroyed. So we had some reinforced mobilisation there, and they're holding on here because there's quite a few mobilisation centres around there, plus those 2 airfields. The Germans have got units waiting. They've got lots more. There's got more units coming staging, but they've still got loads of units they haven't brought on. They would have been bringing those on at the rate of sort of 3, 6, maybe 9 a turn, depending on the size of the unit. Had they an airfield, they still don't have an airfield. We're about to enter the 3rd turn. So that is the prime objective for the Germans now, to get 1 and or 2 of these airfields. And also to try and hold on in Narvik to work out how to do that. The disruption will go at the end of the next turn, but during that time they defend at half strength and they can't attack, so they're going to have to withdraw a bit there. They're going to get in danger of being cut off, surrounded, and then whittled down. So the Germans need an airbase, A, to bring on reinforcements quicker than they can via sea, and also to stage reinforcements up here to Narvik, and possibly here, because those ones are going to get beleaguered quite soon. They're sitting pretty here, but you know, Norway is a difficult country to get through. And I just want to mention one thing, because I didn't go into the map before. We have certain regions like here. You see, there's this is glacial area. Otherwise, we have forests, wooded areas. There's some marsh, and then of course there's a mountainous area, which is slow moving except for the mountain troops, and no movement at all from motorised. So, for example, the Norwegians are piling up truck units here, but there's no way to get at the moment those truck units over to here or to here where they could be useful. Well, in fact, they could zip round there, but it's the German turn, so we'll see if the Germans close that off. You can see you can quite effectively close off portions of the countryside if the Germans take all here. It's going to be very difficult to communicate between here and here. The Norwegians and Allied units have no transport planes. What they do have is a limited ability. Norwegians can hop one unit from port to port. So, for example, from there to the next port, which I think's around here. And then the Allies get a landing craft at one point, which can then move units by sea. But so the Germans, once they get their airfield, they'll have more mobility. Generally, I think from position, and they'll be able to cut Norway in half that way. For example, their paratroops and so forth like that. but the Allies, they have that limited sea reinforcement ability. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. And I want to see how it pans out.